Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Melina, film student extraordinaire, and today we are on to part 2 of the series 50 Women Directors to Know. So if you want to watch the first video, it'll be linked down below and also in the cards. And remember to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss future installments of the series.
I was kissing you with my eyes open. You said keep them close.
All the sources for everything for these women will be linked down below, and I just wanted to put out a reminder that this is in no particular order. The entire series is in no particular order. It's just how I was researching, typed the women's names out, etc. Our first female filmmaker of the day will be Nia Hansen-Love. Now, she's a French film director, screenwriter, and also a former actress whose films often have themes of like personal crises, existentialism, and desire. Her feature film debut came in 2007 with All Is Forgiven, but that wasn't her first film. Her first film was the short from 2003, Après Mort Réflexion, and then some other notable films would be Father of My Children from 2009 and then Bergman Island from 2021, which is the film you may have been hearing about more recently in the news because 2021. I love that her films revolve around familial and romantic relationships. I think sometimes films focus too heavily on just romantic and they miss the other dynamics that people have in their lives. I also like that while she notes that her films are personal, they are not autobiographical. I think that's a good point where we remember that films start from ourselves. If you're a writer, you have some ideas and they're probably taken from your own life, but they're dramatized, added on, explored in ways you couldn't do in real life. And sometimes I think people forget that and they just assume, oh, if it happened in the movie, it must have happened the same way in real life, and it's just not the case. She also has narratives that rest on subtle emotional shifts, so there won't be like a crazy dramatic change. You'll have to really be paying attention, be an active participant in the audience to follow the shifts of the movie and understand that things are changing. And I think that's a powerful way of telling a story. Her quote that I chose is, "It's not only about the relationship between fathers and daughters, it's about that particular age where you separate from your family and become an adult." That quote was in context of how she writes a lot about kind of young women, teenage girls, kind of on the cusp where, you know, we might just see this relationship between, as she said, the father and the daughter, but it's really more about the entire family, leaving that whole unit and becoming your own self. Our next female director will be Soyoung Kim. She is a Korean-American independent filmmaker, and she mostly does TV work, but she does do some film work, so we're mentioning her on this list. Her feature film debut was Between Days from 2006, and some other select filmography includes Treeless Mountain from 2008, For Ellen from 2012, and Love Song 2016. Her first feature, so this would have been In Between Days, was loosely inspired by her own youth, as we were just talking about with Nia Hansen-Love and the autobiographical, not autobiographical, but taken from personal experience. And the cool thing is, In Between Days was mostly improvised by the teenage cast members, so it's really like not necessarily documentary type subject, but you know, there's like a vague plot line and outline, and then you're just seeing these people kind of develop a conversation very naturally, which is just really fascinating. And especially for me as someone who has never really done a lot of improv work, either myself or like on my sets, so it's just intriguing, and it's something that maybe one day I will, you know, get more into and trying, but right now I haven't really felt the desire to do so, / it's kind of nerve-wracking, I think. Her key quote regarding editing will be, "Mainly it's about respecting the truth inside the material, inside the character. If we're," talking about her husband, "both listening to the character, she or he is guiding us most of all." I think that's beautiful. It's about how you write a story and you come up with these characters, but then they take on a life of their own, they take on a mind of their own, and they become in charge of kind of like their own destiny, their own future, and I just think that is awesome. It's something that I definitely strive to do in the edit and when I'm writing a story. Our next woman director will be Autumn de Wilde. Now, she's an American photographer and film director, and she's mostly known for her portraiture, commercial photo work, and music videos. However, in 2020, she released she directed the feature film Emma, which is obviously an adaptation of Jane Austen's Emma. I've seen many adaptations of this, but that doesn't mean another one's not welcome. And so far, that is her only film like feature film that she has worked on. So she has no other select filmography. However, I thought she was still worth noting because she is a female director who has very striking art, very interesting ideas. And I just thought worth sharing, especially because she didn't have any formal like photography training. She learned from her father and then is like self-taught. And I think it's just inspiring to think that, you know, I'm obviously in film school and I know people who are and aren't, but it doesn't necessarily matter as long as you have the drive, you have a passion, and you have something you want to capture, something you want to tell and communicate. And I think literally witnessing someone who without any formal training like come up and be a great artist is just very motivating. Her key quote is regarding all the Emma adaptation stuff. It doesn't mean that these movies or TV shows should ever compete against each other, because I think what's great is that they're all these different people. They all find different truths in the book and the characters. And I think that is completely true. It's like how there's so many versions of like Macbeth and they're slightly different. They draw on a different idea because of who wrote it or who's directing it, and even then who's acting as the characters. Now, I think if you're trying to make a complete perfect like replica of something, there's no need for a replica. But if you're going to change something, find a new perspective, I think it can be completely worth it. That being said, I hope no one ever redoes Lord of the Rings because those are amazingly perfect as is. Then we have Melina Matsoukas, who recently has produced the show Why the Last Man, but she's also an American music video, film, commercial, and TV director. Her feature film debut, and her only feature film so far, was Queen and Slim from 2019. But again, I want to include her on the list because she is an innovator and doing a lot of cool stuff in the industry right now. Additionally, when she was in film school, her first film was about how women are viewed in the meatpacking industry. Apparently it was very bad. She doesn't show it to anybody and it's like vanished. But she said it made her fall in love with the medium, and I think that's nice. It shows that you can make something and it doesn't need to be perfect or anything like that, but it can still be a fun thing to do. It can still be something that helps you evolve and grow into what you want to do. And her key quote was, she was looking for something she felt was political in a way that had something to say, that was strong and unique and powerful. And I think that's amazing. I think we should be looking for ways to say something with our art. I like to talk about mental health in my films, but there's so many other things that need to be talked about, that need to be represented, and to be focusing on that is really, really awesome in my humble opinion. Then we have Kitty Green. Kitty Green is an Australian film director, editor, producer, and screenwriter, and her feature film debut was Ukraine is Not a Brothel from 2013. Now, she was actually arrested by the KGB while filming this, so she's very dedicated. Then her select filmography would be The Face of Ukraine, casting Osana Balu from 2015, casting John Bonet from 2017, and then The Assistant from 2019. Most of her films have been documentaries. Only one has been a narrative-driven story, which is my understanding that's The Assistant. However, I think she's still a pretty awesome filmmaker and definitely worth mentioning in this series. Her key quote, which really got to me. I'm a film director, but people assume I'm the assistant, so I'm always handed a coat. There is this assumption that I'm not in charge or not in control, and I think that's, because as a woman, we're still not expected to be the ones with any kind of authority or power on sets in the industry, and I think sometimes it's easy for people who aren't necessarily in it to kind of be like, no, I'm sure things are better now, but to be reminded no, things really aren't necessarily that much better, and that's why we're working on it. That's why we are, fighting for our representation, to have our voices heard, and why I wanted to make this series to remind everybody that there are so many incredible female film directors out there, and then that's not even talking about all the other incredible women involved in the industry. Then we have Kasi Lemmons. Kasi Lemmons is an American film director, screenwriter, and actress who actually got her start acting in commercials and then moved into the feature film world. Her feature film debut was Yves Bayou from 1997. Then her other select filmography would be Black Nativity from 2013, Harriet from 2019, and then I Want to Dance with Somebody, which is going to come out this year and it's currently being filmed. But I wanted to mention it because it's very recent work, obviously. I really admire Lemmons because she has worked a lot as a mentor and an educator along with being her own artist. I think it's very nice to see a strong woman teaching and empowering younger generations to become strong women as well. Her key quote, I've been writing scripts all the time, pretty much every day for 14 years. I have to write scripts because that's the only way I can write parts that will get a lot of people whom I really want to work with involved. I think that's interesting because she's saying like if she writes the parts, she's writing it, she can involve these people because she has some authority with writing the script and because she's making it with certain people sometimes in mind. So they would be like a perfect fit for the character. And this goes, I think, into how a lot of times there is like kind of like the old boys club and like who's connected with who can we pull this string here for? And she's saying, well, I made this part for someone else. Not this person in your club, but for like another person I think is talented and really deserves their chance to shine. Then we have Claire Denis, who's a French film director and writer. Her feature film debut was Chocolate from 1988. Some select filmography includes Beau Travail from 1999, Trouble Every Day from 2001, and White Material 2009. I really like that she considers herself to be a highly collaborative filmmaker. She says she really learned to trust the filmmaking process through collaborating and through working with so many other filmmakers. And as someone who recently has been working with more filmmakers than usual, as I'm now involved with like a team for my senior film, working with an editor for the first time, I definitely appreciate like working with somebody else and learning and growing together and seeing how we can make something like really magical and something much better than something I could have made by myself. Then her key quote would be, "The film becomes a relationship," and I think that just pretty much sums up what I was just talking about. Then we have Nia DaCosta, and she's an American director and screenwriter, and she's credited as the first African-American woman to have a film debut at #1 upon opening weekend. Her feature film debut would be Little Woods from 2019. However, she made a short film, The Black Girl Dies Last from 2009, Candyman from 2021, and then she is going to be directing The Marvels, which is going to be coming out in 2023. Along with being the first African-American woman to debut #1 at the box office, she will also be the first African-American woman to direct a Marvel film, and she's gained a lot of fame in a pretty short period of time, which is very exciting. I'm honestly like definitely going to be watching her career a lot and seeing what other stuff she makes because she's just like a powerhouse. Key quote, "I'm most concerned with my films being active and having women in my films who are active. I think this is essential and I love it. I think there's a lot of times that women are very passive in films, the men take the lead, or maybe a woman does one thing but men do like everything else. So to be like, no, like we are just as like human, we are just as strong as characters and can do the same things is awesome and definitely a good reason why she is rising in the ranks of Hollywood." Then we have Gina Prince-Bythewood. She is an American film director and screenwriter whose feature film debut was Love and Basketball from 2000. Her select filmography includes The Secret Life of Bees from 2008, The Old Guard from 2020, and The Woman King 2022. So I think that's pretty awesome as well. Again, she's another like trailblazer by being the first Black woman to direct a major comic book movie, which was The Old Guard, which I really enjoyed. The Old Guard. I'm not sure if you saw it, but I thought it was pretty good. Definitely recommend. And her key quote would be, "The stories that I tell focus on Black women, and they take so much fight to get made. It's not fun, certainly, but we have to learn how to navigate that world." And I want to include that because I am not a Black woman, but I can understand because of the intersectionality of being Black and being a woman in the film industry. It is an incredibly hard fight, and I just admire her so much for pushing for her films to get made and creating incredible projects. Then our last female filmmaker for today's episode will be Rees. So Deandra Rees is an American screenwriter and director whose feature film debut was Pariah from 2011. This was initially a short film that she made while in film school, and then she turned it into a feature film. Her select filmography includes Orange Bow from 2005, which was her first short, Mudbound from 2017, and The Last Thing He Wanted from 2020. Rees pulls a lot of her directorial influence from her own life, again, harking back to how a lot of the people we've talked about draw inspiration from their own lives. She says that her Black lesbian identity is a huge part of her and makes an appearance in her films, which I think is awesome. Again, this intersectionality, bringing together increasing representation and diversity is amazing. And her key quote is, "I want to create work that matters and lasts." And I resonate with that a lot. I think I want to make stories that mean something, that will help change the world in some way. And I think probably that's what everybody wants. But sometimes people just want something that will make them like maybe a quick buck. And I think that something that really matters is a deeper reason. It goes beyond that. that was our last female filmmaker. If you're interested in the next installment, again, please subscribe. Additionally, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below if any of these movies that I named are some of your favorite films, and I will see you next time. Bye.